Hi everyone, what's up? I'm going to try and do this in one take so that it's as easy as humanly possible. There is a way to get Miku dance models into Unity for use in VRChat and anything else you might want to do in Unity. My last video has gone pretty viral. It's got 100 or 50 to 60,000 views, and everybody complains that it doesn't work anymore, which is only partially true. The Japanese community has a lot to say about VRChat that you guys don't hear or understand. They also have their own little communities. So I'm going to go through a couple of things really quick, and then we're going to just jump right into how to do this in a way that respects the authors and everything else, right? That being said, I do have some opinions on this, but maybe I'll save it for another time. Anyway, so I'm going to use the Tita. Tita is a very famous Miku dance and PMD character modeler. He's probably responsible for Kizuna Ai, but I'm going to use his academic model, which doesn't have anything else. I do recommend that if you want to learn how to work with these, there's lots of really cool ways to do it. One of the best ways to do it is to download from kkhk22.cisa.net the copy of PMX Editor. That'll allow you to go to DeviantArt and download bits and pieces for Miku dance avatars. Now, this can be things like bases or face meshes or clothing or items and whatever you want to use. Just credit people. When people ask, where'd you get your stuff? You can say, that you rigged it and you put it together and you brought it into VRChat, but that the model is from so-and-so. I think that's really all you should have to do because, believe it or not, and I mean, you probably do believe it, but 99% of the MMD avatars that are out there are just reskins of existing base meshes that are out there. Base meshes are freely available online, and they contain all the parts to make a basic avatar. So I'm going to show you the importance of that and why it's so damn cool. So you need a couple of tools to pull an avatar from a PMD file or PMX file into Unity, and then be able to use it. Now, because of my first video almost 2 years ago, the stereoarts.jp tool, MMD for Mechanim, actually built in malware specifically for VRChat that removes the VRChat avatar descriptor and other things from the directory. It literally deletes the directory from your imported asset file. But you can still use it, because it would be silly not to produce this thing for using it inside Unity, but this is what you need. So you need the MMD4 Mechanim beta. You also need the correct version of VRChat SDK, which as of today is I had the window open, but I don't anymore. Here we go. It was VRC SDK 2018 0103. This makes some changes to a few things. And you're also going to want Cube's Unity shaders. Now, you can get that over at, so you can get the SDK over at vrchat.net, make an account, and vrcat.club has some amazing stuff in here. If you want to go the route of using Blender and you don't want to use PMX editor and work with pre-existing parts or fully rigged models already, you can go through the hard work of using Blender and struggling through that. But I, for one, am not a fan of Blender at all. I actually highly recommend Metasequoia. Metasequoia is kind of made for this, and it is what almost everyone in Japan uses to build their base meshes. And I mean, you can use Blender to do it, but anyway. So enough of that. Why are Miku dance avatars so damn good? Well, the main reason is because they're made for use in Vocaloid software, which means they have facial structures that are designed to respond to specific sounds that the MMD model would make, which makes it perfect for VRChat because you end up with the ability to do eye expressions, you end up with the ability to do blinks, and most importantly, when you speak, your mouth makes a realistic looking shape. Now, there's all kinds of base meshes out there for chibi characters or whatever you want to do, and there's all kinds of pre-built PMD models that people are allowed for free. Now, you're not using these for a commercial use, so it falls within the usage rights. So, what are you going to do? You're going to make two Unity projects. One will be for the base import, and the second one will actually be for bringing it into VRChat. So, the first one is going to be for the MMD4 Mechanim. So you're going to make a new one. You're going to call it like PMD import or something like that. And you're going to go to Assets, import package, custom package, and you're going to choose the MMD for mechanism, and you're going to choose the 117 meg file out of the two that come in there. Then you're going to right-click your assets folder on your scene, and you're going to click Show and Explore, and you're going to open up your assets folder, and you're going to drag in your unzipped PMD model package. Now, this package should contain an SPH and TGA directory. SPH is cube or sphere shaders and cube shaders, and TGA is your textures. You're going to have your PMX or PMD file that's going to be in there, and what you're going to do is you're going to click on it. MMD for mechanism is going to see this, recognize this as an MMD file. It's going to generate this thing, and you're going to accept the terms, which in Japanese here it says don't use my base mesh for anything commercial or make money off of it. Ask me first. And in fact, if you want to use it for something commercial, you could ask him and pay him if you want, even, which is awesome, right? So anyway, you hit agree. Now, this is the key. This is the most important part of the entire process by far. And what you're doing here is you're adjusting the import settings in MMD PMX to FBX, which, by the way, is an open source and freely available software. I'm looking at you, Gunter, and VRPill. You should totally integrate the GitHub version of this so that you can just directly put in PMXs, just saying. Anyway, so what you want to do is you want to go into here, and you're going to make a bunch of changes. Now, I'm going to do this from memory, so I'm going to try and remember what the reasons are for all this. So first of all, you don't want enable IK. This is inverse kinematics, and Unity has its own, and VRChat uses it, so we don't need that. We don't need any of the IK muscle stuff. This puts all the twist bones in and tries to make some IK. So we don't want body bone for mechanism, but we do want bone for mechanism. We do want arm bone for mechanism. We do want hand bone for mechanism. We do want hand bone for mechanism mod thumb 0. This means you get 3 joints in your thumb. You do not want leg bone for mechanism most of the time. You do not want head bone for mechanism most of the time. These 3 are the most important ones. Etc., etc. Bone rename, yes, you do want to rename the bones to English. Prefix bone rename, yes, you do want to put a prefix on them. This puts a number in front of the name of the skeletal hierarchy so that you can find the order of things very easily. Prefix bone no name, this puts an exclamation point in front of the ones that don't work properly. Prefix null bone name, also same thing. So if it's not bound to any sort of musculature, you put that there. Morph rename is also key. This renames the morphs to English. Which is really important for all you people who don't speak Japanese. Prefix morph no name, again, same thing. You can leave all this in. You do want to rename the materials too, because that's handy. Now, this actually puts it through Google Translate, which is pretty cool. It's built right into the script. So we're going to escape the material name. We do want a bone morph. We do want to create a skeleton, but we don't need to add motion name extensions. We don't need null bones. We don't need to change any of the fixed asset stuff. This other one here is split mesh. This splits the meshes where there are vertex morphs, which means facial blends, okay? So you can have a separate facial mesh, but from what I understand, it's hard on VRChat and everyone else around you to do this, so I actually prefer to make one mesh. So you can uncheck this and make one big fat mesh, which is your character, and it contains all of the morph blends that might be there. Rotation order to XYZ, you do want that because otherwise, your bones will have an angle on them, which is cool and works really, really well for Miku Dance super awesome physics engine, which is actually really incredible, which is why people like to use it, and combine that with bullet physics, right? We don't need support VMD IK disabled. That means any animation file does not have inverse kinematics. This supports it inside here. And then support VMD physics disabled, same thing, we don't need that. Animation key reduction, well, I'm not going to be importing an animation today, but you can, so we're just going to uncheck that too. Bullet physics, we don't need it because we're not using bullet physics, and we don't need anything else in here. That's it. Once you've done this, so once yours looks like mine, you hit apply and process. It will save those settings for later. So this is going to create, very quickly, especially for this mesh, a FBX file, which is a package that you can use for an avatar. Now, she doesn't have any hair or anything descriptive because this is a base mesh. This base mesh by Tita has all the things that you need for a, relatively decent Miku. This is just a Miku, so it's got Miku's proportions. If you want something else, you could go ahead and take this FBX file and edit it elsewhere. But today we're going to put this into VRChat. I'm not actually going to put, this scary one into VRChat, but maybe somebody will. But anyway, this is a base mesh. Now you can go ahead and use PMX editor and add things to this with using the PMX files, but this you could take right into Blender, and then you could customize it all you want. You can also edit the textures and everything else. So this is also going to create a materials folder. And this is important too. So there's a few things you need to do before you bring it into the scene, or before you start to use it in for VRChat. We're going to get to that part in a second, but the next steps are important too. So we do want import blend shapes. Now this is the base FBX. This is before you bring it in here, and this is important. So we're going to do normals. We want to calculate the normals because you might have some textures that don't have two sides, and that's important. We don't have to adjust anything else from here. We do want to import materials. The rig, I'm going to apply to do those things I just did here. And now the rig, the second part is the rig. And the rig is the body. Now this is where things can go pear-shaped really fast and not in a good way. So we want to go to humanoid, and we want to create from this model. We want to hit apply. And that's going to figure out the bone hierarchy and add it to our FBX file. And you're going to see over here that we now have an avatar descriptor. Okay, this could be recreated elsewhere. You can export the model and import it later so that you have a different prefab. But anyway, we're going to hit configure. Now, Miku Dance avatars and PMD avatars have a unique bone structure. Now, it works perfectly. It works perfectly in VRChat, even though VRChat's SDK complains about 180 hip angles and stuff. Because this is the trick, and apparently I'm the only person who knows this. We're not going to use the hip bones, even though they exist. So we're going to use the groove bone, the gurubu, which is right here, the groove bone, and the groove bone and the master bone, or what used to be the mother bone, that is the bone that determines spine physics. And you'll notice, and I'm making this longer than I need to, you'll notice her spine is set up like a human spine. It bends. She has a tailbone, which means when you move around in your VR headset, it's going to look right. So there's a few caveats here we just got to make sure. So we have to make sure that it goes waist, torso, torso 2, and it has to do it exactly like this, waist, torso, torso 2. If you want your eyes to work, it should be neck, head, right eye, left eye, okay? And you've got Hidari Modo and Migimi Modo. A lot of these don't get renamed properly, but they do get renamed in Romaji, which is great. Now, I actually have a tool or an image file here. You can pause the video when I pull this up. But I've got an image here by Zoru on DeviantArt, and you can pause the video here, but basically this tells you what the most common facial blends are, and that is actually using TDoes, typically TDoes one here because that's what everybody uses these days. This is all of the facial blends. So these are all the things you can do with animations later, all the different animation overrides you might want to do, and all of the facial blends for Visemes, which is really important. That's all of them here. And then all the different, eyebrows, mouths, and eyes. Anyway, you get the idea. This is a translation of it, and it's pretty useful. These are the most common ones. You'll find other ones in there. Some characters have really, really neat ones that they've made themselves, but anyway, that's what that is. So we need to make sure that it's head, neck, head, Hidari Modo, and Migi Modo if you have them. If not, you can use right eye and left eye. But this is the eye is built of two parts, and the main two parts, the Hidari Modo, Migi Modo. Hidari is left and right, right? That's the actual lens on top of a flat object. They don't use spheres. They usually use like a flat texture, and because you can replace it. And then there's a joint glasses. So if you have a pair of glasses on your character, you can adjust this, but this is not what you want in JAWS. So this will often go here. The reason why that happens is just because it's like the last one in the chain. So we just turn that off. So we're going to go up to none. Because we don't need a jaw because we're going to use Visemes. Left hand, right hand, you just want to make sure that that's correct. Usually it is. Now for the legs. That's really important too. So we've got our waist, torso, torso 2. Waist is actually just fine because I think we've got a hip master. Yep, that's fine. So we can either use waist or we can use hip master. Your mileage may vary. I typically find that using the waist or the groove bone is much better. So we're going to change waist, and you'll notice there's an exclamation point in front of it, meaning it's not mapped to anything proper. So we're going to go use joint gurubu, and the reason why we're going to use the groove bone is because the IK, right hip, left hip, right hip, left hip, that's where those are. Actually, you know what? In this case, it's not. I'm sorry. I misspoke. So we're going to use joint waist, actually, because this is correct. Now, these will import differently, which is why I thought that. Typically, it's the groove bone, that it's this bone here. Sometimes the groove bone's a lot bigger, but this is a much better built model, so, and Tita's models are. This base is pretty much perfect for VRChat as well. Normally, you'll see this is very big, but it's fine, as long as they're all connected. So we've got waist, torso, hip master, right, which is, or waist, torso, torso 2, and then that's connected to your neck. It's also connected to your right breast and left breast, which will be useful later too. But anyway, so we're going to go down to this bone here, which is right hip D. So you'll notice that this is all wrong. So we're going to choose right hip D for your right leg, right knee D for your right knee, and right foot D for your right foot. And you can put the toe in here if you want to. But I find that does cause some problems in VRChat, so your mileage may vary. I'm going to leave it, but you can take it out. And then same thing, you want left hip. So we're looking for the one marked with D. So left hip D, left knee D. Whoops. Left DD, left foot D, right hip D, left foot D. There you go, done. So as long as it says that, hip, knee, foot, toes, you're good. So this model, even though VRChat SDK complains, will be perfectly aligned and has all the things you need. Now you can test it really easily by going to muscles and settings. Now sometimes there's a few other things that can happen here. Like for example, your forearm will be mapped correctly, but we can take a look and see. So we're gonna do the most important ones for virtual reality are the arm bones. So we want to go left arm, and we want to move the shoulder up and down to make sure that's good. And you'll notice the rest of the body moves with it. That's good. Shoulder front and back. See, nice inverse kinematics going on here. Arm up and down. See, that's good. Front back. Twist in and out. There we go. Forearm stretch. That's your elbow. Forearm twist. Oh, look at that. It's all lined up. And then hand in and out. See, we're good. So we're just going to reset all. Hit done. Now, that will work generally okay. There are some issues with the bones. There is one last thing I should say here. There are some issues with the bones in the arms usually. Now, since we used arm bone for mechanism, it should be just fine. So we're just going to go down here and double check. So torso 2. And we're going to close the breasts and the neck, and we're going to look at right shoulder, right arm twist, Migi Hojo, elbow, right wrist. So there is something wrong here. You'll see that it says left shoulder, left arm twist. Actually, hang on, left shoulder, left arm. And then we've got left elbow, which is not paired. See, it's not the next one in here. And that will cause an issue where your wrists will turn separately of your forearm. But, you know, you can play with this later if you want to. But for our purposes here, this is super good enough, and most people can't tell anyway. Okay, so we're going to hit done. Now, how do we prevent MMD form mechanism from killing VRChat SDK? Well, since this part of it is what MMD form mechanism's license allows you to do, we're done here. So we're going to right-click Miku Base, and we're going to click Export Package. We're going to uncheck the MMD for mechanism shaders because you can't use them anyway. And we're going to hit Export. We're going to save this somewhere where you can get to it. Like this. And we're going to import this package into a new Unity project file for just VRChat. Now, the other thing, I should mention there's one more thing about materials here. I guess we could do this to the other side, but it's important to make note of this, because when we go and bring it into our other Unity project, there won't be any cube map shaders, okay? So you'll note here that there is a cube map that's under SPH, and so this has got a spherical cube map, and it has the base texture, and there's also diffuse, specular, and ambient lighting colors, okay? Now we're going to use Cube's Unity shaders to replace this. You can usually use just the cutout settings for that, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. Cube's Unity shaders are here. But let's go ahead and import this into VRChat first. So let's minimize this, and we're going to go into. I've got a copy here of what I call VRChat import, and this has my this has just the models I use and everything else. So we're going to go ahead and import. So assets, import package, custom package, and we're going to use the new one we just made. So Miku base, like this. We're going to bring in all of our materials. So we've got materials. There's all your materials. We've got our spheres, which is our cube maps, and our TGA textures, and your FBX will be here too. So we're going to go ahead and import this. And we're going to go into our TDA's Miku base, and this one's pretty good. Actually, you know what? I have my I'm doing a trick that allows me to have MMD for Mechanism in here. This will not look like this for you. This will likely be purple and covered in nothing. So what you need to do is open up materials, and we're going to select all of these, and we're going to choose shader, cube paradox, flat lit tune. Then we're going to go to cutout, okay, because we want cutout. And then we are going to leave that alone. And most of these are going to be just fine. So you'll see here that there are pieces out of her face. You're going to need to adjust the alpha too, just a little bit. So you got to come down a little bit, and you'll see that all these little things appear. So you're going to drag this alpha down so that you can see everything. And basically you're just trying to find like the true black or the true white point in here, so that everything that's in gray is invisible. And then you want outline mode most of the time. You're going to want outline mode tinted. Not always, but most of the time. This puts an outline on the textures so that it has an anime look to it. Same thing, body here, cutout. This is probably all one piece. Okay, and you're probably going to want outline tinted. I like to use like 0.1. Now this is where you would have that outline texture if it's there. You've got a color mask too. Sometimes you can use these, and if it had a cube shader, you might want to use specular setup and do a specular map, and you may want to do a cube map in here as well. There's all kinds of ways where you can add it in properly, but for just for the interest of brevity, we're going to do it this way. Here's her nails, and so on. These are all going to look just fine. This is bits of her, so a mizugi, a water gi, right, which is her swimsuit. There's other pieces here as well. This one is the same thing. We're gonna want to adjust the alpha cutoff like that, so that it looks proper. See, that's how it looks if the alpha's not right, and you can tell when it gets nice and sharp when you've got the right alpha. You can also look at the previous import to make sure you're doing it right. But that's pretty much it. And you can just, drag it around and make sure that everything's good. Obviously, this is meant to look a little more like this. Same thing with the eyes. You're going to want to adjust that so that you can do that. Now, all of these have a color, which is nice because cube shaders will fix that for you. Again, we're just going to keep adjusting the alpha. This is for her tongue and all the little nice facial blends that are hidden behind her stuff. So that took a little longer than it should have. Okay, so here's our Miku, and now she has textures that look nice and will work in VRChat. So we're going to bring her in like this, and now you'll see that we have an avatar. Now I just brought her in with the default height. Now you can adjust this height if you want to a little bit. I like to adjust it to the ball so that the avatar is exactly the right height for VRChat's input, so everything looks really nice, but you can make it shorter or taller, whatever you want to do. So the next step obviously is going to be to add an avatar descriptor. So we want to go add component. We're going to go down to VRChat, so VRC avatar descriptor. We are going to choose lip sync, viseme blend shape, okay, and face mesh we're just going to pick U character. So over here, we're going to go to our Miku base, U character, because we made it all one. We made it all one mesh. Remember, this makes it easy on the servers. And we're just going to stick that in here. And now you've got these physemes. Now, if you remember the image that I showed you earlier, if you want to go back and take a look, this is all the facial blends that will make different facial things when you speak. So when you actually talk in the game, it will do something appropriate. Now, you can copy me here. I'm using, U is actually A2. O is more like this. The is that's the sound in Japanese, so you're looking for actually the I. The E is E. And can be A. And these are just vowel sounds. Now, Japanese people don't really have a very well-defined R, so you can use rect there, or you can use wa. That works good too. You've got your N sound, your S sound, and S looks really similar to the triangle shape. And your ch, same thing, so triangle shape. Your D is going to look similar to your E in Japanese. The D, again, your hard D. Same thing, you can use rectangle for that. Again, you can basically just pick these, but you want to try and be as accurate as possible. Then it looks really good, actually. We're going to use f, so a f sound would be kind of like maybe closer to an U in terms of the way your lips move, and then your f, same thing, and your silence. You can usually use anything you want here. You can just use calm is fine. But you can use any of these. I actually use tepero too, which is tongue out, which is a fun one. But you'll see almost in every single one of these MMD models or PMX models that you download, you're going to see all of this. And the reason why is because everyone uses TEDA's bases, okay, because they're just that good. You need the default animation set. You can choose female if it's a girl. It's usually a good thing to do. And then the next step, now that you've got that, this takes it a step further than my previous tutorial. You could upload this model as it is, and it would have mouth movements that would be awesome. But I'm going to go even a step further than that because I've only been talking for 27 minutes, and you could use this avatar in VRChat right away. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go a step further, and I'm going to show you how to do a blink 2 while we're at it, just because I want to prove that this is as fast as you really think it is. Oh, I guess we have to adjust this ball. So in VRChat avatar descriptor, you're going to want to adjust where the ball is. So you can either scale the model up, which is one way to do it. You can make her bigger so that she matches the ball, and that's an okay way to do it. Or you can bring the ball down. For this model, it's always 4:3, and then usually you want to use 0.13, and that's it. See? Look at that, right in front of your face. Now you can upload it. So you go to VRChat SDK, show build control panel, and you upload it. You'll notice it says here, lower arm is not the first child of upper arm. So what that means is that your forearm will not rotate if you have VR. If you don't have VR, it doesn't matter. But if you do have VR, your wrist will twist in a weird, unnatural looking way. And usually you just have to readjust which arm bones you're using in the game to fix that. And it's not a huge deal. The angle between the pelvis and thigh bone, ignore this, it's fine. It will work absolutely perfectly. You won't do weird IK things like your knees going twisted. You will be perfect, I promise. But this will work. So you just click build and publish, and away you go. And you look at that. This one's only 17,000. Now that's a bit high. There is one other thing you can do. We can go add component, and if you have a copy of actually Mantis LOD editor, which you can get from the Unity Asset Store, or you can download it. Mantis LOD editor online, and what you're going to do is you're going to click upload mesh data. This will take a second. You'll see it doing it here, and then you're going to change the quality until it's something reasonable. So I could do probably here 50. Now I find that it's best to uncheck protect boundary. You want to do protect symmetry. So the symmetric UV mapping and stuff, and then if you use 50, you should notice that it's almost identical to the original. Like, I can't tell, and now it's only 8,000 polys. So once you've done this, you want to hit save current mesh, and you're going to save it into the assets directory, ideally put it in with your other model, and hit save. And then to apply this to the model with the reduced decimation so that the model isn't huge, all you got to do, and this you'll load really fast compared to other people, which is really nice too. So you just click on your U character here, which is the base mesh, not the textures and bones, and you'll see it right here, U character, and you just drag this here, and now I've got my decimated model, and this is what I'm going to be uploading to VRChat. So I'm not actually going to upload a hairless Miku, but you might be into that. I'm not sure. So click on this, and this will remove the Mantis LOD. And look at that. The polygons are nice and small. Hit build and publish. The next step, of course, will be to set your pose. I'm going to show you how to do that too. Blinking is easy as well. You're just using a facial blend. By the way, if while we're waiting here, if you look at your skinned mesh render, see where it says U character, you can expand this blend shapes and see all the things that your face can do. So you can use the blend shapes for more than just the mouth moving. You can use it to animate blinking or anything else you might want to do. So this is going to fetch my user data, and you're going to type some stuff in here. You're going to hit this. Now, if you want a fancy looking picture that doesn't look like that, you can do a couple sneaky tricks. You can back out here, and you can find your VRC cam, and then you just adjust this if you want a nice picture. You click on our little adjustment one here, and we can do like nice and close, like that, right? If you want a pose with some animation, you can drag your avatar descriptor into the base. So you can put the VRC avatar descriptor in here, and then they'll be animated too when you get to this part. But anyway, that's all you have to do. Name your avatar, hit upload, and you now have a much nicer looking avatar than everyone else. And leave me a thumbs up and a like if you thought that was awesome, and hit me up in VRChat sometime. It's Lun. See you later.